They always do this. They always put the nominees out a few days before the final, even when it is in September. And so we are almost 3 months out at the end of the year, and yet we'll have our International Women's Player of the Year for 2025 decided well in advance.
In fairness, there aren't any more international rugby
this
fixtures.
is it. So they might as well.
Yeah.
And the thing they always do is they would put it out before the World Cup final in World Cup years because everyone is there in one place.
Yeah.
Right? And in past years, they've just done it when the men's tournament's ended and they've flown the women out at the same time. Other than in 2023 where WXW was going on at the same time, so they just didn't put them together and the women didn't get a ceremony. Instead they just got told and they got a trophy in the car park, kind of Welsh Shield style. So who knows, but it does mean it feels very early to be doing World Player of the Year conversation.
Yeah.
And yet here we are, 1 week out from the World Cup final.
We all know what's going to happen is that they're going to give it to whichever player is on the winning team of the World Cup final. That just seems like the fairy tale way of, propping that up.
But 2023, RD Sarvea was on the losing team and still got World Player of the Year.
That's very true.
2011,
so.
Thierry Dusatois was on the losing team, was the best player in that final, and got named.
That's the thing. With Dusatois, that year he wasn't the best rugby player in the world. However, he packed in about 12 test-level world-class performances into one final and won World Player of the Year. And everyone was like, yeah, fine, give him what he wants.
Yeah.
After that performance, he was that good. Like, he carried his team.
There is precedent for it going the other way.
Yeah.
However, you do think that if England win it, it'll be Meg Jones. If Canada win it, it will be Sophie de Goody.
Yeah.
If New Zealand are so good in the bronze game, they upgrade them, maybe Georgia Miller takes it.
Sure. So we're going to discuss not only those three, but also the breakthrough player of the year. And say our opinions on not only were these players deserving, but also other potential names for some of them, and also who we think deserves to win.
Yeah.
Do you want to start with the breakthrough player of the year?
Okay, yeah. So I want to start very up front. There was a name that stood out to me. I was like, well, this is obviously nailed in. They will win it. They should win it, in my opinion. I have since checked, and they are not eligible. Is Caitlin House of Australia.
Yeah.
So the rule states that you have to win your first cap from the October of the previous year through to the last international of this year, right? If you win your first cap in the last international, it's very doubtful that you will win this award. Because it's based solely, both of them are, solely on international form. Like, club achievements do not count, right? Which is something people often get lost in over the course of this. So Caitlin House won her first cap in April last year in the Pac 4, which is unbelievable. She was 17, the youngest player to ever play for any Australian national team, which Wally told me personally.
Yes.
He knew this inside out. So she was not eligible, which, look, there's a little bit of this. It's like, are the rules bullshit? Because you always have a handful of players that miss out because they win one cap off the bench a year earlier. Then they have a real break for a year there.
Sometimes players win their first cap in July or September or whatever. And that means they're not eligible for it basically any year. Yeah. Because you can't pack enough into a couple of months worth of, that essentially Caitlin Hulse will have had to have played also world-class standard in her first Pac 4, aged 17, to be eligible for this. Yeah. And obviously it's a consistent rule that applies to everybody. Ultimately it doesn't mean that much, because ultimately Caitlin Hulse is still a bordering on world-class rugby player at the age of, she's just turned 19 this week. Yeah. So having played brilliantly in the World Cup, gotten to the quarterfinal, and been one of Australia's key players in the quarterfinal.
It kind of feels like they're building the team around her a little bit. She has 15 caps by her 19th birthday.
That's mental.
She is, I can't remember seeing a better player at her age than her. And I include one of the nominees on this list, which is Braxton Sorensen McGee.
Yeah.
So for me, if House was eligible, she would have been nailed in. It would have been her. I think she's a much more complete and rounded player, where Braxton Sorensen McGee is all talent. And again, you've rarely seen a player come along at her age, at Sorensen McGee's age, and House's age, and be that good at the things they do, right? Where I think House is a much more rounded player. Yeah. So there's a little bit of horse for course, and I don't understand anyone leaning either way. I would go for House and but that's not relevant. I think in her absence, it is Sorensen McGee for me.
Yeah.
And not to get ahead of ourselves, but she was already a bit of a breakthrough player. I remember us having the conversation right before the World Cup, right? Of me going no, she looks really good, but is she the next big thing who's getting a bit of exposure this World Cup? And you were very adamant, no, she is for them.
She's world class.
And I kind of viewed her a little bit as okay, she had some games, they're good in some game time, but she'll be playing the Spain game and then getting some exposure, maybe come off the bench a couple of times. But no,
She was the reason why I thought New Zealand had a chance at winning this World Cup. Like, I remember us having a conversation in the office just before we started recording that, when you were saying, like, we're going to talk about them and see what the chances are. And I remember saying to you, like, there's the Braxton Sorensen McGee of it all as well. And the fact that she could, like, just win them a World Cup, which I know is a crazy thing to say about an 18-year-old, because she was incredible in the pack four. Like, she tore that competition up, and most times she got the ball, she was exciting, she was scoring tries, and they weren't just tap-ins either. Like, she was scoring, like, insane soaring through the air tries and so on.
In a way, this has been the thing that's hurt her in the World Cup, right? Is when more eyeballs are on her, a lot of her tries have been being on the end of overlaps, or been finishers rather than, like, starting things, right?
Yeah.
And I say hurt her, but you look at, like, what she was doing in the
She's the top point scorer in the World Cup so far.
Well, she was playing fullback, primarily. And her playing on the wing then, she's been an exceptional winger. She's been one of the best wingers in the tournament. And this is a tournament with, a number of the greatest wingers this game's ever seen, right? And the woman Wycliffe on the other wing to her, Abby Dow, Claudia Pena. But there's Bianca Silva. So many options. Lisa Neumann. But there are continuously, just like you are seeing her take every single chance she's offered. Like, even a finish against Canada from the weekend was not an easy finish, but she makes it look easy. She makes everything she does look easy.
Sorry I've not put the footage of that in there, because we want this video to stay up and people to be able to see women's rugby. But she has been exceptional in this World Cup. Also, as an 18-year-old taking on goal kicking, which isn't something she usually does at club level for the Blues, or hasn't done for the Black Ferns before, which is crazy to say that she's just taken any responsibility on her shoulders, and she's worked as a playmaker as well.
And been really good. And taken over from Renee Holmes, who's obviously one of the more experienced players in that back line, and has improved, has a higher goal kicking percentage this World Cup than Holmes does.
But as I say, like, as a finisher and as a creator both, she's been utterly outstanding. And the amount of people I've spoken to about this World Cup who have gone, that number 14 for New Zealand is special. And it's crazy how young she is. And that is the exciting thing, is that we are yet to see, and you mentioned there, Caitlin Hulse is a bit more of a mature, well-rounded player, right? But also, nobody's asking Braxton Sorensen McGee to be mature and well-rounded. They're asking her to be mercurial. And she is a wonder kid. And we are yet to see in the next 10, 15 years of her career, her mature and round out her game. But as a sheer talent, I said before the tournament, like, Sasha Feinberg and Gomzulu in the men's game is like the one player that I've seen kind of like on that pedestal recently in the last kind of 3 or 4 years, and she is completely up there just as a talent in terms of what she is capable of on a rugby pitch, and she is the person I'd go for, but I do want to talk about the other two.
You need to watch more Dan Edwards. But no, so we should move along. Doubling up. Georgia Miller.
Yes. So Miller has come through, again, a world-class talent on the sevens circuit, and was brilliant at the Olympics last year. There is an argument that, I know that it's the 15s breakthrough player and she fits into all of the categories that qualify her for this. She does have an Olympic gold medal, which, makes the word breakthrough a little bit, I don't know, cheapened maybe. But also, she completely deserves it, right? Because she fits into this category. She made her debut this year, and she's been utterly world-class.
Critically, the award is breakthrough player, not young player.
Yes.
And people sometimes conflate the two.
She's also 21 years old.
Yeah, exactly. But you can have broken through at 27, at 28, right? And
I like that, though.
Excellent. Exactly.
It shows that late developers are a thing, and it does account for those.
And also in women's rugby, right? We have so many that take up the game at like 16 onwards, 16 to 21, and still have the athletic ability to go on and be that good. So, yeah, I'm always glad that is the award, rather than it is young player, rather than going, who's the best player in the 23 that we haven't nominated before? Which is a bit of a kind of like bullshit way of doing it. I think they've got a set criteria, and Jordan Miller fits it. And you've got to think she probably goes in as favourite, considering she is nominated for the main award as well.
You would think she technically should walk this, right?
And I think Sorensen McGee has a really good shout of, I think there's a good chance that George Miller goes nominated for both and goes home empty-handed.
I agree.
The Bradley Cooper of rugby. And her talent is undeniable. Right? The way in which she has approached playing seven for this New Zealand team, the way in which she has been so excellent with the ball in hand, but also like has added a bit of like breakdown nous to her game, has got better and better in that area as she's gone on throughout the year. And you can feel her from like, early year, Pack 4 to this World Cup, like becoming more of a 15s player.
Yeah,
right? Like
100%.
Becoming less of like a 7s player dropped in. And there are a lot of advantages being a 7s player dropped in, right? Like you think about the game in a different way, you approach it, you run different lines, you get involved differently. Your fitness is entirely different.
Yeah.
But there's a level on which, right, if you do adapt to 15s more, but keep a lot of the best instincts of that, there are, things you want to round out in your game in terms of like, if you are a forward in 7s, you're more likely to try and contest every breakdown.
Sure,
right?
sure.
Or every breakdown you're nearby and you can reach, right? Because there's less support.
It's like positive headless chickening, isn't it? Yeah.
And I think it's something we've seen Miller get much better at over the course of this World Cup, never mind, like over the course of the full year, is just like identifying which breakdowns to go for.
Sure.
And like learning the little like dark arts of 7 play better and better.
So that's the breakthrough player, Georgia Miller. Not the player, Georgia Miller, the breakthrough player, Georgia Miller, right? One more breakthrough player we need to discuss, which I love that she's got the nomination. Fiji's inside centre, Josephine Naihamu, who has been outstanding all World Cup.
I was astonished to learn how young she is. She has been excellent.
Yeah.
And when you break down her year, it's extremely telling. So she comes into this Fiji team, start of the year. Obviously, her brother played for Japan at last World Cup.
Jone Nakaimbula.
Yes, and has been like a bit of a wild talent, very, very good at the things he's good at. The things he's not so good at basically don't exist in his game, right? Like terrible on the ball, doesn't really like tackling.
His defensive positioning is wild.
Yeah. His sister then comes in, and you find out it's his sister like a game or so in, and you're like, oh, right, there must be some DNA there. No, it's all the positives, but none of the negatives. It's great. In terms of the intelligence of their defence, and in terms of their defence in general, is night and day. Obviously, they play centre, so it's not, so much the issue in terms of the high ball and stuff that we're talking about.
Yeah.
But you then look at them with what they do with the ball, right? So 7 tries in 6 tests. That isn't a crazy record.
It is.
Hat-trick against Tonga. They got into the World Cup. And then from there, once she's arrived, she has been... Would you say she's been Fiji's best player?
Yeah, I would
I'm
say
leading
so.
there.
I would definitely say so. The other one that I obsessed over was Saloti Nailolo.
But didn't play enough minutes.
Yeah, exactly. So that was kind of a pound-for-pound selection. But, there was a handful for Fiji, but I think Naihamu was the one who, I think as the tournament went on, progressed more and more. I think it's the definition of a breakthrough player, really. Yeah. That against Canada, she set up the try for... Lomani, Colora Lomani. And in the second game against Tonga, she suddenly started ripping them open and making clean line breaks and making really hard carries. And you went, she's a serious talent. Yeah. She's a big presence. It was the
Scotland game, wasn't it? Where she really announced herself.
And then the Wales game, she was unplayable. Wales couldn't lay a hand on her. Every time she got the ball, she was breaking through and scoring. And genuinely, you were just as Welsh fans, we were looking at her just saying, we need to keep the ball away from her. We need to find a way to stop Fiji giving her the ball because she was unplayable.
It's that combined raw power and ability to break a tackle with the ability to go for an outside break.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes she combines those. You see her like fading onto outsides and then taking through a contact, through power there, through the tackle rather there. I really like she's been nominated.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I don't think she has a chance of actually winning the award.
Okay, but before we do this, do we agree that those are the 3 best kind of breakthrough players?
I was sitting on Caitlin Howells.
Yeah.
You can't nominate her.
No.
Otherwise, I think there's a lot of players, right? And you pull out people like Abby Burton's been brilliant for England.
Sure.
You can't really nominate her. There's not enough game time there.
I think there's a kind of victim of her own success in a way is Lily Ives Campion. Playing for England, the issue is she can't get enough game time because she's competing with world-class second rows.
That's it.
And that's it. If she played in a slightly worse team, then we'd probably be going, oh, she's 100% up there. Because of her talent, she's exceptional.
Yeah.
But like I say, a slight victim of her own success there.
Well, that's it. There's a few of those in that kind of England reckoning.
Yeah.
Where, again, look, if Jade Sheckles played for Wales...
Yeah.
Maybe you'd be bringing her up, right?
Yeah.
Or for Scotland or Ireland or whoever.
Couple I want to bring up.
Yeah.
One, Lissy Poirier for New Zealand.
She
made her debut this year at 15-a-side. She's obviously been playing for the Blackburn Sevens for a number of years, but has only converted this year to 15s and has been outstanding for them. In the Pac 4 and also in the World Cup has kind of nailed down that 9 jersey for the Black Ferns. And the other one of the players that I'm becoming more and more obsessed with is Ali Bitonci from Italy, scrum half, who has such a big future ahead of her. I think she's kind of the player that could feel a little bit unlucky not to be nominated for this.
I thought about her as well. I was going to mention her. I think she has been a little bit of a victim of the fact that the 2 teams who've really disappointed at the tournament are Wales and Italy.
It's true.
Right? So, Maisie Davis, they never nominate props, but also like a rogue shout.
Yeah, I like that.
You know, she's been like really excellent for
She's
Wales.
been one of the best Wales players.
She's been like the big positive of Wales, I think, is like finding a loose head who is that good, that young.
Yeah.
She's still 19, might have just turned 20.
20 now, I think, just.
But like her and Bichonchi both played for the two teams that when you think about this World Cup, when you think back on it, right, you'll think of the 14 other teams before you think of those two.
Yes.
Those two have really disappointed Italy and Wales.
It feels like ages ago Wales were in this World Cup.
I know, same with Italy, right?
Yeah.
So when you're thinking back on this World Cup, you do think about Fiji beating Wales, you think about what a great standout that was, and you go like, oh yeah, their 12 was great, weren't they, you know? And you think the same with a few of the other nations, you know, the Brazils and so on in the world. Like Rachel Cocan, you know, was never going to be nominated for this, but like in terms of converting and having that great story and everything and having not played 15s before this year internationally, there's a few of those throughout there, right? Where like they're not going to be nominated, but like they're eligible and it'd be a cool story.
That would have been hilarious. Rachel Cocan got nominated. I loved it.
But yeah, I think it really counted against Bichonchi. Like her and as I made it to shout for Wales. I don't think she was realistically in contention.
Yeah.
But
she'd have been in the top 10.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
I think the thing is, though, in order to get into this, you've got to play for a team who has a standout moment or two, or be your nation's best player at that early age.
Yeah. Well, with that in mind, are we going Sorensen McGee between us?
I would go Sorensen McGee.
I think for the word breakthrough, you take Sorensen McGee. That's not necessarily to say that she's better than Georgia Miller, but for the breakthrough aspect of it, of this is the future right here. So, yeah, okay. It's nice that we're agreed on that.
Yep. So, the World Player of the Year.
Yes.
Georgia Miller, we've just mentioned. Anything to add on her in terms of her getting the overall nomination?
She's utterly world class.
Yeah.
There are several times throughout this I've said that she might be the best player in the world. She might be the form player in the world. It's completely, like, I completely back her nomination on this because every time you see her on a rugby pitch, you think she's going to do something, you know, that she's kind of the centre of attention. And there's just such main character energy to her, especially ball in hand.
I think the question mark around her is less, does she deserve a nomination? I think she definitely does.
Yeah.
But the way this has fallen is World Rugby this year have nominated 3, rather than in the last few years they've nominated 4. They used to nominate 5. I don't know why they're getting slaved myself. It's going to work towards the point where it's just the winner they announce. Like, one nominee, like I wonder who it could be. It's Antoine Dupont again. But because there's only 3, right? The way it's worked is they have 1 Black Fern, 1 Canadian, 1 Red Rose.
Yeah.
And they've left the 1 French woman, I wonder who that could be, to just kind of be like, I'm really sorry, Pauline. But the question isn't, does she deserve a nomination? Does she deserve to be the Black Fern who was nominated?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, again, Sorensen McGee's up there. Ruhe Deman, I think, is somebody who can feel a little bit hard done by.
Do you want a stat about Ruhe Deman?
Consistency. Go on.
Ruhe Deman, by sheer numbers, the most successful player in the history of this award.
Really?
Won once, nominated a second time. Only, I think, 4 or 5 players have been nominated twice.
Winning it in a World Cup year.
No one's ever won it 3 times, so she would have been the first player nominated. And of those players who've been nominated multiple times, like it's Alex Matthews, Pauline Bourdon-Sansus, Gail Mignot, the players that have been nominated twice, right? She's the only one of those players who's been nominated multiple times and won it.
Yes.
Pauline Bourdon-Sansus, if she'd been nominated, could have been the first nominated 3 times.
Yeah.
Sophie de Goody joins that list now as someone nominated twice. Dumant, I think, would have deserved the nomination.
Yes.
Are there any other Black Ferns that you think will be up there? You go, Wooden Wycliffe for the year leading into the World Cup.
Yeah.
Then has she been?
She's got a little bit quieter as it's gone down.
I don't think she has been.
Yeah.
So
they've alternated the 12 jersey between Sylvia Brunt and Teresa Setafano.
Sylvia Brunt's been good enough to be in here, but the fact that Setafano and Emily Duplessis have taken enough minutes away from
Alana Bremner is probably the next shout, I'd say. Again, sheer consistency at like a world-class standard.
Yeah.
She's a 9 out of 10 every week.
Olsen Baker's injuries counted against her.
Yes.
So I think it probably is. It probably is Georgia Miller.
Yeah.
Even though you think about her missing 40 minutes of the opener, then missing the semi-final, you kind of
It's a sheer game breaker though. It's eyes on her.
Yeah.
And I think you're right about Kuiper Wilson Baker that if you were to put together a World 15, you know, the women's World 15, you'd probably be looking at her in that back row.
Certainly in contention.
But when it comes to like, she's missed a couple of big moments, and then Grant had come back in the semi-final and been absolutely incredible. Next up, Megan Jones from England.
The first Welsh woman ever nominated for World Player of the Year. The Women's World Player of the Year. Obviously, Shane Williams won it with the men. And Alan Wynne-Jones and Ryan Jones both were nominated separately, and Lee Halfpenny. But also the first Welsh speaker to be nominated. The first Cardiff-born player to be nominated for the award. And has done it purely on that basis and rather than her achievements for the Red Roses.
I think a part of that, again, the same question you asked George Miller and the Black Ferns is, who has been the best player for England this year? And I 100% think Meg Jones.
I think she's been the second best player for England this year, but World Rugby hate props.
Okay. You think Maud Muir?
I think Hannah Bottoman.
You think Hannah Bottoman?
I think Hannah Bottoman has been... Hannah Bottoman would have been in this list for me.
Okay, interesting.
She would have been one of the 4 I would have...
Do you think Kelsey Clifford's form's done her dirty?
A little bit, but I still think Bottoman has been the... Which I still keep calling because she changed her name on social media once to Hannah Crockerman in 2020. And it's just locked in my brain forever that she's Hannah Crockerman. It
was very zany.
It was a very zany thing to do.
Do you get it?
And I have no idea why she changed her name to Hannah Crockerman. And I never want to know. But she has been, for me, pound for pound, the best player single time she's played. And Megan Jones has generally been the second best player on the pitch in every game England have played.
Yeah, I get that. Hannah Bottoman does get points because after the USA game, she was spotted wearing a Long Eaton away jersey, circa 22-23. I have no idea how she got that, but that obviously sent her up in my estimations.
And made the point at the weekend that she should have been playing the match instead of Ellie Kildown.
Yeah.
And she was absolutely spot on there.
She was right.
She was completely right. She was the best player on the pitch. And I appreciate her calling that out, even if it is like... There was I don't know if you saw Ovale Mask's piece on the game.
No.
That was very good, very worth putting for Google Translate for anyone watching. But use a great phrase about how she is the epitome of English rugby and everything about the Red Roses team, in that she is absolutely brilliant, incredibly annoying, unbelievably arrogant, and yet she's a prop who can catch, pass, tackle, run, sidestep, so you can't quite hate her.
Yeah.
And there's this but that's kind of it with Hannah Bottoman, isn't it?
Yeah.
I had to really stop myself saying Crockerman there.
A force of nature.
Yeah, she is this Red Roses team summed up, right? That she is both everything you hate about English rugby, and yet there's also this level of no, but I respect them so much.
Yeah.
I've got so much time for everything they do.
That is such a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough on Hannah Bottoman. Back to Meg Jones.
Yeah.
So she has stepped up to be the vice-captain of England this year and done a brilliant job of that. She plays primarily as a 13, has also slotted in at 10 once or twice before. And I think she's kind of the glue of this England team. Yeah. She's kind of the most reliable player. And I think in terms of... if you're going off sheer consistency, right? Because in the Six Nations she was one of the best players, and in this World Cup she has been the finalist team's kind of, as I say, most consistent, most dependable player, right? On sheer consistency, she kind of deserves to win this achievement, the World Player of the Year. And she would be so hard to argue with if she did win it.
Yeah, I would have absolutely no argument if she did that. And interesting again, like Miller, Sevens convert.
Yeah.
And we see the France game in particular, how good she is at the breakdown, being a real standout attribute, being something that keeps her.
She can do
in the
everything,
game.
Can't she?
She's defensively so good. And that is anticipation, that is reading someone, that is then getting into the breakdown.
She's quicker than you think as well.
She's definitely quick.
And she scores tries, she puts in kicks, she runs good lines, she's defensively brilliant, she is loud on the pitch. Like you always hear her on the ref mic just yelling at people. She's bloody good.
So the World Rugby press release lists with everyone, a moment that defined their year, right, in terms of one that got them over the edge. And with Megan Jones, you'd think it's deceptively hard to do. But do you know the one they went for?
What?
She got 2 tries against Samoa. So, Georgia Miller was her debut playing 40 minutes in the World Cup and being, unbelievable. With, everyone else that you've hat tricks and you've got, scored a bunch of tries, was player of the match here. Megan Jones, it was she scored 2 tries against Samoa, I guess.
The thing is, if you were to put together a list of the great things they have done, Megan Jones would be the longest.
But this is the thing, right? If you went through the whole year and went through how many good moments they had on a rugby pitch, Megan Jones is probably the second in the world to the person we'll get onto in a minute. But there hasn't been one performance you look at yet, there's one game left to play, where you go, oh, that was the Megan Jones show, right? She is, as I said, she has been the second best player on the pitch every single game England played, and who's been first best has changed every single week.
No one would be surprised if Meg Jones had that moment this weekend in the World Cup final.
Yeah. Okay, so last but certainly not least, Sophie de Goody, the greatest rugby player in the world, not called Antoine, and she is the nominee here. She is who I would go for. I will put cards on the table. She would be my World Player of the Year. I think she's the best player in the world at the minute. And I see no arguments in other directions.
I can't argue with you at all. With Georgia Miller, as I say, a few times during the World Cup, I've kind of gone, oh, that's the best rugby player in the world right there. But every time Sophie de Goody's in front of me, it makes me change my mind back and go, no, it's Sophie de Goody. And especially, I mean, the last 3 games that she's played, I mean, there was the Wales game where she was completely unplayable, right? Against Australia, obviously she got player of the match and she tore everybody apart and, yeah, was just doing absolutely everything. And then the semi-final against New Zealand, she was simply incredible and, again, did everything. And
I would have been on for, what's she looking at, like, player of the match 3 in 5 games at the minute.
Yeah.
Would have been 4 in 5 if not for Justin Peltier having the game of her life.
Yes. I'm going to save back some of the stats we have around Sophie de Goody for when we do our build-up to the final, because her year is not done yet, crucially, same as Meg Jones. There'll be some bits on those that we're going to do. We're going to do a preview on the final on Thursday, all being well. So save back some of the stuff on there. But the point is, Sophie de Goody is the most complete player in all of this. Yeah. You know, that she's the primary line-out option, and she's also the goal kicker in this Canadian team. And she's brilliant at both of those, as well as being a leader, a carrier, a breakdown threat, absolutely everything. If you want to show want to show a kid like how to play rugby, and you can only show them one player, and that's it, despite it being a team sport, Sophie de Goody is the player that you show them.
Yeah, I think she is, other than Dupont, maybe the most complete player I've ever seen in my life. In my lifetime.
I think I agree with that.
I didn't have the fortune of seeing John Eales. He retired by the time I was 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Right? It's like I never watched him live.
She's the modern day.
She's the equivalent. Yeah. She's brought him up in past as like an inspiration of someone that she's watched clips of. But I think largely that was because people went, oh, you're goal kicking second row, have a look at John Eales.
Sure.
I think we never saw John Eales come in and play 10.
No.
We never saw John Eales come in and run the game in the way she
Sophie de Goody often attributes the fact she grew up playing fly half her entire junior rugby career, and then eventually realised she was a ball carrier. Yeah, had a growth spurt and played as a number 8 instead. She often that's just how she views the game. She views the game like a fly half, except she can run through people. It's crazy.
She can do literally everything, and she has been more important to this Canada team than Megan Jones has been, or Georgia Miller's been to this Black Ferns.
And she's been even better after moving to second row as well, which is crazy.
Yeah, I think you've got more out of her. We'll talk about this down the line. But I think in terms, if you look at it this way, right, which players had the biggest impact on their team? If that's the case, Pauline Bourdon-Sassou should be in this list. But I think in that case, it is de Goody. De Goody's improved this Canadian team more than Megan Jones or Georgia Miller, who improved their teams, where they've been the best players in teams that were always going to be good, right? Where de Goody has helped raise her team's level.
With this in mind, do we agree with these 3 as the nominations for World Player of the Year?
Just about. I would have gone for Bottoman, but I won't argue too much.
Okay, if it was 5 nominations, which other 2 players would you chuck in?
I would, in that case, have kept Bottoman as one of them, have Megan Jones as another England player.
Okay.
And then put Pauline Bourdon-Sassou in.
Yeah. I would put in Pauline Bourdon-Sassou as the 4th nomination.
Who's been by such a long margin France's best player.
Yeah.
And France is the 4th best team in the world.
And the most impactful player to the team.
I've said this repeatedly during this World Cup, I don't think any player is more important to the team than Bourdon-Sassou.
Yeah.
You look at France in the opening against Italy and how shambolic they were, or Alexandra Chambon, Bolic, they were. And then you compare that to with Pauline in, and they're just night and day. And there's a reason she's waiting there behind us at all times. Yeah,
I'd agree with Pauline Bourdon-Sassou as the 4th person I'd chuck in there. The 5th, I think, is quite a difficult one. You raised such a good argument with Hannah Bottoman. As I say, I think personally, Kelsey Clifford's taken a few points off her for me because she played so well. It's one of those, and that's not Hannah Bottoman's fault, you know. Abby Ward's another player I'd have up there for England in terms of same job as Meg Jones, as like a leader in that team, somebody who drives them forward. But also, like, has fallen out. The same thing you're saying about Irish Campion, right? Has fallen out the team a little bit, and like, you know, hasn't always. England are almost too good. Meg Jones is like the one England player who's been there every week, you know. So I think that's the main thing that propels her up there. But the other player that I would go for, and this is a little bit of a left field shout, and they sometimes happen in the nominations list. And I don't think she ever would have won it,
I wonder if you're going to... Okay, I've got someone in mind. I wonder if that's who you're going to... Yeah, go on.
Evie Gallagher.
Oh, yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that, yeah.
In the Six Nations, she was one of the best performers. She was nominated for Player of the Six Nations, was the top tackler in the Six Nations, one of the top carriers in the Six Nations, if not the top carrier, and replicated that form exactly in the World Cup and just propelled Scotland forward like every single time she had an involvement. Yeah. And she was like a banker to put in your fantasy team because you know that her work rate is unmatched by basically anybody in World Rugby. Yeah. So, yeah, Evie Gallagher is the player that I'd say like deserves to be on this pedestal, like with some of these world-class players.
I really like that. I think that's a really good shout. She's been outstanding. Another player put in the exact same boat is Erica Joe Cersei.
Yes!
Who was arguably the player of the pool stage for me. I don't know if anyone played better than her.
Yeah.
But she came in as like a good player, right? And you're just like, oh my God, how good is she?
She's incredible.
She's ridiculous. Put her and De Goody in the same team, and you're looking at like the greatest second row pairing of all time.
Yeah.
You're looking at like Backy's Boater and like Victor Matfield would go around each other's houses and like drink bourbon and weep for hours at how good they are.
Yeah.
Like she was so good in terms of both her like attack, breakdown work, like set piece, defense, tackle, like everything. I'd have her in the same conversation. Likewise, I think I'd still lean on that 5, but I could easily be swayed by... And it's the problem with this is you end up leaning towards the best teams, right?
Yeah. Of course you do. Of course
Because it's representative of like who was the player of this year.
Who's achieved things as well.
But sometimes you do have players, you know, it's like Sergio Parisse picked up 2 nominations over his career, right? Like, and I was always glad of that. You know, bloody Joseph Ete got one a few years back. It hasn't really happened as much in the women's game as well, right? We've generally seen the nominations have all come from the same 2 or 3 teams who are the top 2 or 3 teams in the world at the moment. So I would have liked to see, I think Evie Gallagher really fits. I think Gerald Cersei I'd put in the same boat. Anyone else you'd throw in if you're nominating someone outside that big 4?
If not for her injury, for Wafer would have been in this conversation.
Yeah,
but
her injury really hurts her.
Yeah, it counts against her.
The other player I'd put in there, to mention her again, Caitlin House.
Yeah.
I think has to be in a top 10. Overall.
Yeah. She is going to get some nominations in her lifetime, I think,
she is.
for this. And I'm so excited to see where she goes next, because to be as complete as you say by her age 19.
This is even just where she goes next is Rugby League. But
it better not be.
But yeah. Anyone else you'd throw out there?
No, I think
okay, I've got one other name.
Go on.
Cesar Hele.
Hele. Yeah, I mean, I would love that.
Yeah.
Again, I think there's a world in which she gets a few nominations a few times for her
It's
career.
just the kind of calibre of team she's playing for, right? Which has gone up drastically in 4 years. I think it'll go up drastically again in the next 4 years. But has she had the opportunity? In terms of pound for pound impact on the team again, I would argue she's been as good and as strong and as impactful as Megan Jones.
It's difficult to disagree.
As, you know,
so, you're going to Goody.
I would go to Goody.
I think I'm agreeing with you because it feels really hard on Meg Jones. I think, because she couldn't have done much more.
I think it's between those 2.
Yeah.
I think Georgia Miller's there to kind of make up the numbers.
Georgia Miller is there on like how good a rugby player she is. That's what it is, but like how talented she is. You know what I mean? Yeah. Whereas like Meg Jones and Sophie De Goody, who bear in mind came back to international rugby in July, like she didn't have the pack 4, whereas Meg Jones did have the 6 Nations, which does go in her favour a little bit. Pound for pound, it's Georgia Miller. Yeah. But
I think Meg Jones has the strongest body of work.
Yes.
But I think Sophie De Goody in terms of impact and in terms of what they've actually done this year, and in terms of being the best player in the world.
De Goody's kind of like a cross between why Miller was nominated and why Jones is nominated, and she's kind of landed in the middle of that. So I think I would give that to De Goody, but it's very tight between the 3 of them.
I think it'll end up going with whoever wins the final.
Yeah,
I think it'll go in that way. But
but the Squidge Rugby Awards are in.
Yeah.
Braxton Sorensen McGee we're saying is our breakthrough women's player of the year.
Yeah.
And Sophie De Goody we're saying is our women's World Rugby Player of the Year.
All of our stuff does take club form into account, right? So this is going purely on World Rugby's criteria.
Yeah.
We will get to December and we will see if we agree with these.
Okay.
Once we put club form into account.
Yeah. And if just randomly all the teams decide to play these random like playoff
and also
in,
like
December.
The PWR starts in like 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
Like there's like a week off the players get.
Yeah.
Like I talked to Maud Bjork before the tournament started when I did the Love of Rugby with her, and she was just saying like, yeah, we get like literally I'm back into training like 6 days after the World Cup. Like, there's no break whatsoever.
Did you know that they were getting through to the final at that point? Or, because there was a world in which England get knocked out in the group stages.
That's very true. That's very true. Take that comment how you will.
I mean, she's right.
Yes,
they are in the final.
They're in the final.
So, it's not arrogant, it's just like planning ahead.
No, she kept mentioning them when they played the bronze match. She was being very humble.